Today's Tuesday, November 28th, and it's still November. What gives?
We are still getting over Thanksgiving. As we record this, of course, it's Sunday. I had leftovers for breakfast, so I'm still in the spirit. But who we really need to give thanks to, of course, are our patrons, saints of human beings. People talk about first responders and military, but the true peak of humanity is the Level 1 patron. Their generosity is only outshined by their intelligence, physical attractiveness, and of course, athletic performance.
Seriously, though, thank you guys. Without you guys, it would not be possible. If you're thinking about joining Patreon, there's never been a better time. Also, a big thanks to everybody that has been buying stuff in our store. The holiday sale, we're having a 20% off sale if you order more than $100 and 10% off, I think, if it's less than that. So a lot of orders in the Level 1 store. That's going to be through, I think, the end of the year, through January 1, I think. So you need to do that. And we also have a Level 1 product from China. This is a KVM. It's a 4-port KVM. This is kind of, it's a very niche product. We're not expecting to sell a lot of these. A lot of these were actually pre-sold to people I know, and the people, like me and a bunch of people got together, were like, we need a KVM that doesn't suck. So if you ever use like Avicent and some of the other KVMs, they do like USB HID emulation. It's not very good. This is USB 3.0. You've got some HID ports on the front, USB 2, but you've also got USB 3. So if you get fancy USB keyboards, it works fine. These are in the store. This is a dual monitor version. You can hook up 2 4K displays. But there's also a single monitor version as well. The single monitor version is $330. The dual monitor version is $550 after the discount. Yeah, it's pretty good. The dual monitor version is going to ship in January. The single monitor version is shipping right now. It's really exciting because Level 1 product. Oh my God. Ah! Okay, on with the news. Our first set of follow-ups this week, of course, the big news everybody's on about, other than loot boxes, is net neutrality. What's going on with net neutrality? Everything is on fire or not? I don't know. It's, of course, our position. Some people have pointed out, why are you guys for net neutrality, Title II, when you're not for regulating games? But I think if we had our choice, we would rather have a free market for ISPs. That was eliminated long ago, unfortunately.
Yeah. The FCC... it created these problems, and now it's quote-unquote solving them. If you look at big government, and oh man, I know we're going to get the comments. I don't care at this point. Big government has a long...
There go our patrons! We'll see you.
A long and storied history of creating problems and then quote-unquote solving them with more government. So it's not a new tactic, but it's worked. We're getting it now. Here it is. And all that's left is to find out exactly how the ISPs are going to... I don't think... like, we can sort of predict, like, well, maybe they'll do this and that. I think they'll blow our minds with the pure evil that they come up with. But I think they'll give us a little bit of a cool down time, because this is hot right now. I'm not going to touch it right now, but probably like Q2, Q3, 2018, we're really going to see the fireworks then.
So if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I'm like, yeah, 96 Telecommunications Act, this is amazing, blah, blah. On paper, the 96 Telecommunications Act streamlined a whole bunch of stuff, but also introduced a whole bunch of regulations. On paper, that thing is great. It is great for consumers. It's totally awesome. Its implementation has cost consumers like $400 billion. If you live in a rural area and you want to do like Lifeline stuff to get your connection, not going to happen. If you want competition for ISPs in your area, not going to happen. It's all thanks to the 96 Telecommunications Act. So yeah, it's a huge mess. Maybe we should do a separate video on that. I don't know. It's if ISPs, if you could vote, if you as a customer could vote with your wallet, it's like, oh, Comcast is pulling shenanigans with BitTorrent again, which is what led to the whole Title II classification in the first place. Then you could vote with your wallet and pick another ISP, but that's not really an option for most people.
Yeah, and like most things that come up with these kinds of regulations and big government jumping in, it's not what they call this thing, like the Internet Freedom Act or something like that, right? Is it Internet Liberty Act? I don't know. It's like the Patriot Act and all that. But in reality, it usually ends up screwing you. No matter what the wording of the thing is, they'll find a way to work around it. And the only cure for that is to let some young upstart come in and be like, hey, we're not going to do any of that crap. Spend your money with us. But yeah, we can't do that.
Now, if I saw evidence that Ajit Pai and the others that are pushing for this genuinely believed that this would result in a better thing for consumers, then I would probably be less acerbic and less disenfranchised. But the reality is that the FCC is also going to order states to scrap plans for their own net neutrality laws. So, like, in terms of like this is kind of unusual, because think about like the local franchise for cable TV. I mean, historically, that's always been handled locally. That is very related to the FCC. But the stated reasoning for this is really, you got to do like it is mind blowing. It's utterly mind blowing, because they're saying in this case, the FCC has power to do this, but their argument for going from Title II to Title I is the FCC doesn't have power to do this. It should be the FTC or somebody else that actually makes these things law. And so in one place, they seem to be abdicating responsibility, and in another, they say, no, we have the power to do this. We're going to prevent anybody else from doing it. Something seems inconsistent about that message.
I think they learned their lesson. Of course, we've been covering the data collection issue where the FCC ruled that it's okay for ISPs to sell your browsing history and things like that. And a lot of states and counties and so forth immediately said, no, you can't do that here. And the ISPs were like, wait, what? No, you don't have the authority to do that. So I think they're just getting in front of it here, where it's like, oh, no, we can't let that happen again. Just make sure they know they can't do that.
The other exciting thing that's making me think this is just outright fraud, I think I would use the word fraud, is that the New York Attorney General has been investigating that whole, there were a bunch of comments during the public comment period, which is another reason the FCC says that things were not handled properly with the Title I to Title II, but there is no comment period for this state regulation thing. So again, duplicity. The New York State Attorney General has asked for information about the people in quotation marks, that submitted pro-net neutrality comments, because those comments appear to be from a botnet. And the FCC also publicly stated that they were attacked by a denial of service attack. The New York Attorney General has asked for information about that as well, so that they can prosecute whoever it might have been if they happen to be in their jurisdiction. But the FCC has been oddly silent on all that, and they really are not cooperating or providing any information to the New York Attorney General.
I feel like, if there was a closed door meeting and they knew it would never get out of that room, they'd be like, no, seriously, that never mattered. Like, don't you understand that was just a dog and pony show? So why are you worried about this? It's not real.
I think the real tragedy here is that there is another generation of people, probably younger than us, that are watching this unfold, and they're probably going to be even more disenfranchised with their government than we are, because it seems pretty plain that there's not even a really democratic process going on here. I mean, even if Ajit Pai believes what he is peddling, these specific instances of behavior in what they're doing would seem to say that they know that what they're peddling is swill, and you should just accept it anyway. So it is, as you say, a dog and pony show. There really is no better way to describe it, and that is no way to run a government or a society.
Well, I think you got on rose-colored glasses. If you're talking about like maybe, like young teenagers and lower, maybe. But when you're talking about, like late high school, college, those people are totally they're
checked out.
They're waterlogged on the Kool-Aid. If you look at the comments on our EA video,
so much Kool-Aid they're experiencing kidney failure.
And now you're going to be sued for slander by the Kool-Aid Corporation.
Oh, this is also a follow-up. We mentioned the Intel management engine thing before. It's insanely bad. It's so bad that Intel's not really trying to backpedal anymore. Things are about to get real interesting in the enterprise. Things are about to get real interesting for any corporation, because we got some pissed off people in Russia, and whether or not the Russians were a problem, the criminal element will certainly be a problem. Whether or not that's represented by the Russian boogeyman or not, I don't know. But this management engine flaw is going to lead to tons of industrial espionage, the likes of which we have never seen before.
So we still don't know exactly the details. Again, this is coming at the Black Hat conference in December, which is like all those criminals, they've got that Outlook reminder set. It's like, remember to watch presentation on, but they have revealed that there is a buffer overflow exploit that's in this thing. And there's also the ability to impersonate it. Now think about that. The ability to impersonate something that is undetectable by any kind of antivirus or anything like that. Oops. And as a coprocessor that the user can't really do anything about, that's pretty major.
That's just completely nuts. Well, the whole Battlefront 2 thing has attracted lawmakers' attention as well. So Belgium, the US, and later the EU. The EU is also sort of getting in on this. They're saying, We don't know. There is an aspect of this, which is the whole like children being involved with absentee parents, I guess, is maybe what everybody's freaking out about and worried about. So, I don't know.
Well, the argument that the comments on our EA video, that was our highest downloaded video ever, which that's fine. You voice your opinion. That's great. But the argument is you're paying money for something and you don't know what you're getting, and it appeals to children, right? I mean, that pretty much sums it up. Now, I'm just going to throw some names at you, all right? Magic the Gathering. Pokemon. Hearthstone.
Pokemon really presses those buttons just like constantly.
Yeah. How about the Loot Crate monthly service?
And so what they're saying is that it's different because money is involved rather than in-game rewards.
You get Magic the Gathering cards for money. How about all the toys? Like, there's so many kinds of toys and collectibles where it's blind boxing, right? You don't know what you're going to get till you open it up. And people love that. And that ain't new. You remember Muscle Men from the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
I loved Muscle Men as a kid. And they came in a big like garbage can. You didn't know what you're getting. You got like 30 and you got duplicates all the time. This is nothing new. It's just kind of a new iteration of it. But now, if we regulate that, are we going to regulate all these other things? Is Hearthstone just going to go away? Because that is, you don't know what you're going to get, and it immediately impacts the game.
Well, I think Muscle Man certainly explains your crippling alcoholism.
Do you think those are still around? Man, if Muscle Men are still around, I'm going to get some.
Oh, we should do an unboxing. We should do an unboxing video on it.
Well, now I'm a fan of Jim Sterling. He's a guy. He's like a gaming journalist dude on YouTube, and he's one of the guys banging the drums about this whole Battlefront. It's like, this is gambling, but he does unboxing videos about those stupid toys on his channel. You can't have it both ways. All right, you either can control yourself with all things or nothing, and if you invite this kind of regulation, all that stuff is on the chopping block.
I would be okay with like US FDA style labeling, like my cookies. It's like, if you eat this, you're going to get fat. Okay, thanks, FDA.
But can we really trust that? Because for years they were like, the fat content is what makes you fat, and it's been the sugar all along.
Speaking of people that mislead and say horrible things, let's talk about Jamie Dimon. JPMorgan is reportedly getting into Bitcoin futures. And of course, CNBC doesn't have a very short memory because they were like, wait a minute, wasn't Jamie Dimon really railing against Bitcoin?
In fact, he said anybody that buys Bitcoin is stupid. And he didn't mince his words. That's exactly what he said. So, yeah, it's interesting. I have a feeling that the JPMorgan desks got so many calls where it was like, hey, you manage my money. I want Bitcoin. And they were like, oh, okay, fine. Well, futures markets and Bitcoin, that's interesting. That's big players. When you talk about futures contracts, you're talking about buying big, huge blocks of a thing. So this is not for like mom and pop.
Remind me again, was JPMorgan involved with the U.S. housing futures? Like, is that a thing?
Yes, they were. You're talking, of course, about 2008. It took me a minute there. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. The real estate market that should have destroyed the banks.
Something Ponzi scheme.
Yes, they were a big part of that. In fact, they have had a huge criminal history. One of the greatest things Jamie Dimon ever did. He was called to go in front of Congress for that whole, one of their many crimes. I don't remember which one it was.
Transgressions.
He had purchased JFK's cufflinks at an auction, and he wore President of the United States cufflinks to testify in front of Congress.
Wow.
Which shows you how he feels about that whole situation.
Nice. Oh, also kind of a follow-up, but kind of new information. AT&T and Comcast have filed a lawsuit against the city's broadband competition law. Now, this is important because a couple of weeks ago, we reported on Louisville. Google Fiber was rolling out in Louisville, Kentucky, finally, after a similar lawsuit. And Louisville also has sort of a one-touch make-ready system for their poles. And what that means is that the public utility poles, which are installed in the public rights-of-way, are used by utility companies like cable TV, electricity, others, to provide service to the public. And so Google wanted to use those. There is actually a procedure. There's a Public Utilities Commission where you can actually go and rent space on a pole. It's not month to month. Usually you have to do it like a 10 or 20 year lease, but honestly, it's not really a big deal to rent space on a pole unless it's overcrowded, and then things can get kind of weird. But AT&T and other people that are sort of charged with the day-to-day upkeep of those poles have been dragging their feet, and they don't really like it when competing companies use their poles. This was another thing that was a subject of the 96 Telecommunications Act, where it was like, we're gonna disconnect our local last mile. We're gonna turn that into a separate company. There's gonna be millions of those, well, not millions, but tens of thousands of those across the U.S. And it never happened, never materialized. And so here we have these companies fighting tooth and nail to prevent competition from using public right-of-way.
So this is the opposite of Louisville. Louisville had a judge who declared that, yes, Google could go in, and as long as it wasn't disruptive to the other companies, they could move their stuff, put their own stuff on the poles. No big deal, which makes a lot of sense. I think people support it. People want Google Fiber desperately.
Well, I think the judge was very clear that, like, if Google screwed something up, they were responsible. So, like, if they accidentally cut people's phone lines off or whatever, that makes sense.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Now, this judge in Nashville has ruled the opposite, that no, that's not okay. You have to wait for AT&T to go in there and do the things, which takes a minimum of 6 months. So sad day for the people of Nashville.
If only there was some way that we could do away with some regulation to make this a little easier, or at least clarify the regulation to make this, instead of making it bureaucratic red tape. Anyway, this is exciting. So apparently the way to get Elon Musk motivated to do something is to make a bet with him. So yeah, we reported on the Powerwall thing. Like, Tesla was like, we're going to solve South Australia's power grid problems with our Powerwall. It's going to be great. We can do it 100 days from the day the contract is signed. Musk beat that. They signed the contract, and 45 days after the contract was signed, everything is basically operational.
That was working days. In terms of actual days, 99. So he did beat it in both cases.
Good job, Elon Musk. I like this. I like Tesla stories where there's not like a darker side, where it's like,
well, there is one little caveat. It has not been tested yet. Now, you think maybe testing is part of the delivery process? I'm splitting hairs. I think in the next couple of weeks they're going to shut down. It's a wind farm feeds it, and then, you know, if the wind's not blowing, you work from the battery. So they're going to, I guess, cut off the windmills and just let everybody run from battery for a few minutes and see how it goes.
Musk is confident that everything's going to be A-okay. Now, if he'd lost that bet, he estimates that it would have been about a $50 million price tag for the company.
Yeah.
And, you know, certainly Elon Musk's enterprises are spending money insanely fast. So, yeah.
But zero to the Australian people. So,
currently, one of the largest users of Linux on the desktop in the world is the city of Munich. And this has been sort of touted everywhere. It's like Munich is going to go back to Windows 10. They're spending $89 million, or 89 million pounds, I guess. So that's not euro. It's not dollars. I'm just the dumb American in me is like, everything's dollars. So yeah, they're going to spend, that seems like a lot of money. But when people were questioned about that, they're like, well, this 89 million euro that we're spending is really, this is an interim solution, and we're not converting everything. We're just converting some things because it's hard to source some things on Linux. And it's like, the more you dig into it, the less sense this story makes.
It seems at the heart of it, the argument for switching back to Windows was a relatively small amount of people. And it's government. So I'm imagining, like, the 80-year-old guy who's like, I can't print, and he's not going to be able to print on any OS. Maybe Apple, maybe.
Give him an iPad.
but yeah, you wonder if, maybe it's just like, no, you have to rise to the occasion here with this software. You are a public servant. It's part of your job to deal with this because it saves us millions of euro. But I guess the right people didn't like it. So I have a feeling some Microsoft representatives are involved here somewhere.
The license cost is going to be really low. That's in like $1, and then they get you after that. I don't know.
But they are going to keep some Linux machine. They call it's with an M, Linux, which is, I guess, like Munich Linux. I guess they got their special brand of it or whatever.
That was probably the mistake right there.
But yeah, I have a feeling that the infrastructure and stuff, of course, is going to remain Linux, and then the day-to-day users will have Windows.
I tried to do some snooping on the actual IT staff and the plan and meeting minutes and things, and reading the meeting minutes and stuff on this, it seems like most of the IT group is moving to web-based applications and terminal services type stuff. So it's like, okay, you can run whatever Windows application you want through something like Citrix. But, the client really doesn't matter. And with things like FreeRDP supporting remote FX even, I don't know why they wouldn't just do something like that, because you basically, anything that you have to have on Windows, you can have on terminal services, and everything else you can just have sort of a fat client. It seems like that would be easy to manage and sort of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think it's probably more political than it is technical, as are most things in government. So there you go.
Put the nerds in charge. It'll be fine. I promise.
Didn't work for the Russians.
Remember a couple of months ago when we reported that Facebook was making it easy for advertisers to target people by race?
Think that was like the first of the year. It's been a while. They've had a long time to deal with this.
And they reported they fixed it. But it turns out that no, they have not.
Well, I think the difference here, of course, I mean, this is not really a difference, but in the houses for sale, they might have fixed it. But for the houses for rent, they have not changed it at all.
Well, it turns out advertisers really like that feature.
We should say this lets you exclude people by race, religion, gender, and a variety of other things that it is insanely legal to discriminate against when it comes to housing.
If anybody's on the Facebook executive board, I've got your solution here. What you need to do is you need to buy Equifax. Their stock is really low, and you'll have all the financial data. And then instead of doing race, you can just use the salary data.
Well, but see, that's not going to get you like the religious and stuff like that.
I'm sure that Equifax probably has that.
But what website was that? They did some tests, and it was like you can go really deep with this. It's like if you speak Spanish, or if you've searched for wheelchair ramps. Think about how terrible that is. Because I actually, I live in a slum basically, and a couple of apartments over, they had to install a wheelchair ramp, and the rental company has to foot that bill. That's part of the ADA, I think. So yeah, it's like, I don't really want to be building ramps to my my properties. So yeah, don't show those people the ad.
Interesting. It's funny how that works. If only we could have yet more regulation to solve that. Wait, that's probably a good idea.
So if you're shopping for a new wheelchair, use that incognito mode and don't log into Facebook, because Jesus Christ, they're discriminating against you.
Oh, we reported on the Qualcomm Broadcom thing. Well, that's not happening. Apparently, the takeover offer or the buyout offer was sort of rejected. So I think Qualcomm is doubling down on the awesomeness.
Yeah, Qualcomm said that the value that Broadcom put on them was insultingly low, and maybe that's a tactic for negotiating, but you usually don't announce it publicly. Of course, these crazy times, who knows? That might just be a power play.
Maybe they're like waiting for Samsung or somebody to buy them, or Apple.
Well, but Apple is moving away from them. We saw with the 5G stuff. So
Apple does that a lot, but Apple, I think, famously did that with Intel CPUs when the MacBook Air was getting ready to come out, because Intel had no interest in low power CPUs. There's a prototype out there. It's a MacBook Air with an AMD CPU. And it's because AMD had better power consumption at the time, but the performance wasn't quite there. So Apple will do that as a negotiating tactic. At least they have in the past. So it'll be interesting to see how that actually shakes out in terms of like integration and stuff.
That would be a huge merger. I wonder if that would be like any sort of monopoly style, because they don't compete, but it allows them to put the same product together under one roof.
It'd probably be a bad move for Apple, because historically they haven't really produced products like that. Oh, burn. Highly advanced technical products. I mean, they don't have anybody in-house for doing that.
You think they'd put a new interface on the modem? I don't know. This error code is just a sad face.
I've opened up the iPhone, and inside the iPhone is just another little iPhone with a little mechanical arm.
They're doing it in emulation.
We're including another story about Ajit Pai, and this is sort of a different perspective. This article has some of the horrible things that happened under Title I, if you want to share that with your friends. And the whole thing, so most people don't understand, but in a very simple way, Tom Wheeler told ISPs to knock it off with some shenanigans they were doing. Among the shenanigans was inserting TCP closed packets in BitTorrent streams, which were not really there. Imagine having a pen pal and sending letters back and forth, and then all of a sudden you get a letter from them that is like, "Dear sir, piss off. I never want to talk to you again. Sincerely, your friend." And it's like, that doesn't sound like Tom. I don't know. That's basically what Comcast was doing. They were looking at the packets and saying, "Oh, you're having, let's just insert." And so each of you got a letter like that, and then you would close the connection and stop sending letters. You wouldn't be pen pals anymore. Caused some problems for BitTorrent because nobody that designs protocols ever assumes an ISP would do anything like that. And so Tom Wheeler said, knock it off. And the ISP said, screw you, we don't have to. And so Tom Wheeler said, well, here's a set of rules that you have to follow. They were classified as Title I. And so it went to court, and a judge said, well, you can't, Tom Wheeler, you can't just make up things that people have to do under Title I. But this type of behavior is regulated under Title II. You could reclassify them as Title II, and then you would have power in the law to prevent them from doing this, which is exactly what he did.
And, of course, Ajit Pai, in the language of this new stripping away of net neutrality, he talks specifically about giving the ISP the power to do things like this. In other words, to simply block traffic that they don't want you to participate in. So, I mean, if you're thinking about, oh, they're going to slow me down, they're going to slow down my Netflix, well, it's within their power to just turn it off.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it at that point.
And it's like, oh, they won't do that. Remember when Verizon turned off Google Pay because they had a competing service? Remember when Verizon blocked tethering? Because if you were paying for 5 gigabytes of data, the tethered data is different than the data directly downloaded by your phone, right? These are things that happened under Title I that were problematic. So,
and in some cases you might hope for like a sort of like a price war, a freedom war, right? It's like, well, here at AT&T, we'll let you do whatever you want, but they will all sacrifice that, and they will get together. Just remember the Cody story.
Oh yeah,
where it's like all these media companies that absolutely hate each other and compete, they all joined forces. It's like in the movie when two characters hate each other, but there's a bigger threat. And I love it when that happens. They have to join together. They will join together to fight the quote unquote piracy and shut down all of that happily. They will definitely work together on that.
You can kind of turn that argument on its end in terms of like the regulation and vote with your wallet and stuff like that. And it's like, would it be a better situation if there were no regulation at all? Probably, as long as that would lead to a competitive market. Think back about, I think most of our audience has probably lived through the music thing, like MP3s and DRM and things like that. And so at first, when there was music on the internet, MP3 piracy was rampant. It was crazy. You could get anything you wanted immediately at your fingertips, and copyright, damn the copyright, full speed ahead. But then legal music services came about, but it was impossible. It's like you had to buy like the branded music player to go with the service, and your music didn't work everywhere. And if you wanted to burn a CD that contained, so you could use it in a legacy CD player, you couldn't do that. You had to pirate the crap out of your music. And then Apple was like, well, we'll give you DRM music, but we'll let you burn a CD. And that was revolutionary. Apple, took over the market. But there were a lot of different places you could get your music from. And some music labels were like, no, we're only going to be on Apple, or no, we're only going to be on these different things. Consumers voted with their wallets. What happened? MP3s became the standard. You don't have that choice with ISPs. When Verizon pulls shenanigans or Comcast pulls shenanigans, you can't pick a different ISP. That is a problem. If you could, the market would take care of itself because customers aren't stupid. Even
more important, some new startup can't enter the scene and be like, hey, I'm not doing any of this crap. Here's what I'm going to give you, and I'm not going to block anything. I'm not going to, blah, blah, blah. The FCC really won't even allow that. I'm sure becoming an ISP is an insane process.
Well, look at Google Fiber. Look at all of the stories that we've reported on.
That's Google.
Google just wants to hang fiber on your poles. They just want to run some fiber to your buildings. Now, do they want to exploit the shit out of your data and spy on you to the nth degree and make a whole bunch of money that way? Yeah. Yes, absolutely. There is a ton of money to be made there. But look how hard it has been for them to just get space on a pole.
But you're saying that as if every other ISP isn't also doing that. So, I'll take that. If you give me I'll hide my activity if you just let me do what I want and don't block me and give me good speeds.
And let's not all forget the 96 Telecommunications Act promised fiber everywhere, fiber to every structure in America. And they have, I promise you, they have collected the money to do that. And you're like, that would be hundreds of billions of dollars to run fiber to every single structure, outhouse, and thing in America. Yes, you're exactly right. And they've collected hundreds of billions of dollars from the U.S. taxpayer.
There's a joke in there about fiber and outhouse, but I'm too upset to come up with it.
Oh, this is in the UK. This is really exciting. We had a bunch of people report in on this, and we sort of waited for more information. So in the UK, they've got a lot of problems with their ISPs where it's like up to 1 billion gigabytes per second, and nobody's ever going to get that. Well, actually, in the UK, customers, their consumer protection watchdog people are saying, well, if their service is bad enough, they can get a refund. And so companies there are standing up and saying, oh my God, this is crazy.
The advertised speeds in a lot of the cases they looked at, only 10% of the customers actually got that. The guy living next door to the hub, wherever they are actually coming out of. Another thing that they attack them over, speaking of fiber, is they advertise it as fiber service, but it's only fiber, not to the home, but to the local box, wherever that is. So the rest is copper. So they're saying you can't call that fiber. Yeah. It's not fiber.
We currently have that problem in America, but no one is interested in doing anything about it, so it persists. Sorry.
So yeah, it's what the ads change. They've made this weird argument where it's like, well, you can't expect everybody to change their advertisements in a month. We've worked with advertisers. They will change the advertisement every millisecond. There is no problem with doing that.
Switching gears a little bit, AMD Ryzen Mobile. HP has released the new HP Envy X360-15Z. I think I got that model right. It's got Ryzen plus Vega, and it's not meant to be a super insanely expensive laptop. It is meant to be the everyman laptop.
It was $780.
780, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
This reviewer complained that they weren't able to get the NVMe version, which is unfortunate. They're still putting mechanical hard drives in laptops. That should be outlawed. If we're going to regulate everything, let's regulate that. It's like laptops with mechanical hard drives. That's punishable by death.
I don't think you're going to get Reddit to champion your cause there. This thing performed pretty well. It did not perform the best that Intel had to offer in other laptops, but it was good. I mean, for a $780 laptop, the gaming was pretty good. The big problem though, battery life.
Yeah.
The Vega graphics tend to be a little power thirsty, it seems.
That's kind of rough. I was thinking that the only laptops that really ran better were the ones that had the lower end NVIDIA GPUs. That generally the iGPU was not quite as good. Like the Intel, I think, that's with the Intel graphics, yeah. So
this one pulled second in a lot of games. So definitely disruptive, but the power thing could be concerning if you're planning to do true mobile gaming and not just plug it in.
Definitely worth a look. And true 4 cores. This could also pave the way for ultra portables, assuming that the heat dissipation is not much of an issue. Ultra portables in the sense that everything is all on one chip and you get pretty decent performance. So maybe we'll see something that's kind of ultra portable like the old Asus UX32VD form factor, but with replaceable components. And that was the other exciting thing about this particular laptop, upgradable NVMe and RAM, which is, very welcome for people like me that try to get 5 years out of a laptop. Speaking of laptops you are never going to get 5 years out of, let's talk about the Microsoft Surface line. The Surface Book 2 can't stay charged during gaming sessions. They've messed up. They didn't retool their hardware enough. And so this is the new Surface Book 2. They have put USB-C on the side, plus it's got the weird, Surface proprietary charging whatever. And there's a battery in the keyboard base, and there's a battery in the screen, and the GPU's in the keyboard. And yeah, the GPU uses so much power the charger can't keep up, and it will run from battery and the wall while it's plugged into the wall, slowly draining the battery while you play games.
They claim that this is not really marketed as a quote-unquote gaming laptop, but Jesus, it's certainly priced there, isn't it? And it is capable of running something like Destiny. But if you play Destiny, you will slowly drain the battery, even if it's plugged in, which... Now, from what I know about Destiny, I haven't played it, but it's my understanding that that's a very grindy game. They mean for you to play a lot of it. So if you're playing from the Surface, I don't know how long a break you think you'd have to take to get the battery back up to a charge where you could get another hour.
Well, you can set the power profile to balanced, and that will reduce the performance of everything. But
I don't think it runs the accelerated graphics in that case. So your game wouldn't really run.
I don't know if it does, or it's just downclocks it. I'm sure that you could find a place where it downclocks the graphics and it would be okay. But yeah, with the price tag of the Surface Book 2, that's unacceptable. That's some Apple level shenanigans, Microsoft. Come on.
We have talked about how Microsoft's new line is moving toward Apple, which is it's hard to imagine a world.
I also think it's a tragedy. That Surface, that proprietary connection between the keyboard and the screen, that's PCI Express by 2. I think there is no excuse for the second generation Surface Book to not have a PCI Express by 4 connection to the keyboard. That is, I'm, as far as I'm aware, it's not PCI Express by 4. I'm not 100% sure, but I am 100% sure that the connection in the Surface Book 1 is PCI Express by 2. There is no excuse for that Microsoft R&D. That should be PCI Express by 4 because the new Alpine Ridge chipset from Intel and the whole Thunderbolt thing and all of that, come on. Come on, Microsoft. Don't give up now. You've almost got a laptop that's not trash. You just got to keep going a little bit farther. Uber paid hackers to delete stolen data on 57 million people. So this is fun. All the people involved in this at Uber were fired.
Now, this was under the Kalanick. Is that the old guy's name?
I don't know.
The old CEO, the one that everybody hates so much. And yeah, so, we talked about Equifax, and it's like, wow, they sat on it for that much time and didn't anything about it.
There's actual cover up here.
Yeah, Uber. And the only reason we're finding out about it now is because they had to reveal this to SoftBank, who is the investor they're trying to get to come in and, give them a bunch of money to run the place.
Thanks for letting us know, SoftBank.
And yeah, it's like they would never have told us about this. They were worried about SoftBank finding out about it later and then being like, well, you didn't reveal that, so that, the terms of the loan are violated or whatever. But yeah, they, instead of alerting everybody that they've been hacked. Now for users, I don't think this was too much. It wasn't credit card data, but for the drivers, it was their license and some stuff like that. So, a lot of meat on that bone for identity theft. But they paid off the people who somebody contacted them and was like, hey, I've got this, give me money. And they actually ran them through the bug bounty program, gave them $100,000 and took their word that they deleted it.
Wow. I don't know. I feel like the security experts in the audience would be like something bug bounty program. If you're going to pay out the ransomware anyway, like maybe you should have more responsible security researchers involved in the first place. I don't know.
They were claiming that a couple of people who have just left were never told about it. This is another Equifax situation. It's like people at the highest level, people with a C, their acronym starts with a C. We're not told.
That's just how business is done in America anymore.
I guess. Like maybe every Monday we all get together and talk about any of the crippling things that might have happened to the company that previous week.
Well, the Wall Street Journal says the new CEO even knew about it for months. So
yeah, this took place under the old guy, but the new guy was told.
Wow. And the customers didn't find out until like last week, which is why we're reporting on it. So yeah, if you used Uber, might want to get that identity theft, whatever. Might want to call your credit reporting agency and do the credit freeze.
Well, but let's be honest here. I mean, this was relatively small. So you're
57 million.
But your information was already in the Equifax leak. So I just add another one to the pile.
That was actually the argument the IRS used recently when an IRS breach was like, oh, these people already had their information leaked anyway. It doesn't matter.
No harm. That's like, so if you intend to murder a person, but they're already dead, technically that's just
desecrating a corpse.
Desecrating a corpse. That's a misdemeanor. So no harm, no foul, right?
I would love to see that argument in court. Like the Supreme Court is like, well, they showed up to murder him, but he was already dead.
Can't kill what's already dead.
Imgur also had a bad week this week. They confirmed that their email addresses and hashed passwords were stolen in a 2014 hack, but they apparently did not find out about it until very recently. So good news is the passwords are SHA-256 encrypted.
It was the Have I Been Pwned guy who got a hold of this database somewhere. I think somebody sent it to him. He was like, oh, hey, that's Imgur. And he contacted them, and they have apparently emailed everybody who was involved. It was also a relatively small hack, but
they didn't get everything.
Just another example. Well, I mean, there's not much to get. I don't think Imgur asks you even what your real name is. So,
you know who else was hacked this week? The social services credit card system, which apparently is a lot of people.
This is in Australia, and this, they had a lot of information about these people. I think it included basically everything you would need.
I think it included credit card transactions, but then it talks about corporate credit cards. So I was not super clear if these were like how does it work down there? Like if you're in the social welfare thing, do they issue you a credit card?
I think that might be the case.
Okay. So you could have some really private stuff on there. I mean, that might be a big deal.
Yeah. And I mean, it's always a bad thing when they get especially when it's like a government agency Yeah. But I don't actually know what is that sort of like our EBT system?
I think so. That's what I was thinking.
So yeah, I guess the worst they could do would be to drain you for that month. But yeah, that might be the difference between eating and not.
I wish there was an option at the POS terminal to put a generic description in or to make it so that data was not reported. Because like with EBT, it's like you can buy this, but you cannot buy that. And I'm sure that Australia has something similar. I wish it's like, no, this is a private transaction. These are toiletries. These are, this thing that I have to do for my irritable bowel syndrome that is like super, super embarrassing. Like that data should just never be recorded in the first place.
More on that later.
Speaking of which, wait a minute. Google has been collecting Android users' locations even when the location services are disabled. So they reached out to ask Google WTF because they disabled location services, but they showed that it was reporting. And Google's response was sort of a nonchalant, cavalier, oh yeah, this service was collecting that, but we didn't do anything with it. We deleted it immediately as soon as we got it, and we're going to have that fixed by the end of the month.
And they don't necessarily even need the hardware to do that. Of course, when you are using your mobile device, you must connect to a tower. And towers are only good for, 13 miles, curve of the earth. And that's if you're on flat land. So they know pretty much where you are based on what networks you are around and what towers you're hitting. They've become really good at figuring out where you are without the GPS and hardware. So yeah, keeping track of you is something they can and will do at all times. Just keep that in mind.
You can also determine position just from the Wi-Fi networks you can see really accurately because Wi-Fi access points don't go very far. And if you can see like 10 access points, they can pretty much pinpoint your position.
Yeah, and they know those IPs. So it's a bad time if you want to be covert. Leave your phone at home.
It's kind of nuts. Motherboard is reporting over 400 of the world's most popular websites record your every keystroke. And so basically what this is there's a little bit of JavaScript that runs. It's marketing analytics. And literally everything that you do, your mouse movement, any form that you start to fill out but don't finish, on every single event, scroll, the whole 9 yards, all of that information is captured. By and large, this is captured for marketing reasons because they want to analyze how people are using the site and try to figure out if there's something wrong with the site, or maybe they designed something badly and people can't find what they need. They get all of that data, but they also just hoover up literally everything.
That includes your password. Now, a lot of these services have options to obfuscate password, but that's if the web designer actually used the password type for that field and didn't just say, oh, plain text is fine. Just use a text field, which you'd be amazed how often that happens. The other thing, you talked about Walgreens, right? Maybe you're going to get your herpes medicine. These things capture the screen, which means that your name and address on that prescription and what drug you're getting is on the screen. And a third party, not just the website, the Walgreens that you're dealing with, is going to see that information and archive that information. And now this is out there. This is crazy. But what if they got hacked? What if they lost some data?
What if that Amazon S3 bucket is open to the world?
Exactly. So very invasive. We've talked about when we do the news, we leave ads on because sometimes we get a few pennies if you'll watch that ad before you watch this video. And when we load all these tabs for the news stories, it destroys Chrome. Poor Firefox Quantum was just like, what are you doing to me? And this is the reason why. It's not just the ads. It's all of this craziness that's going on in the background.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, I think if they were using a cryptocurrency miner, it would probably be less CPU overhead than a lot of these analytics JavaScript files.
And they'd make more money.
Yeah, they would certainly make more money. I mean, it would just be... There's so many companies out there. The EU has a lot of regulations in this department as well. The EU has taken to basically outlawing even things like your server side logs, like capturing a website visitor's full IP address is frowned upon, if not outright banned. You can capture the first 3 octets, but not the last one unless you need it for security reasons or some type of security related analysis. And even then, there's rules about how you have to handle it. So these are really sort of interesting in the EU in this regard.
You just mentioned crypto miners. I think we forgot to mention in the Jamie Dimon story, Bitcoin like $9,300 right now.
Oh yeah, it's literally over 9,000.
So the old 10,000 by Christmas, people were talking about how that was crazy. Of course, it might be, 10,000 by mid-December and 5,000 by Christmas, but it's exciting.
Watch a 10-year-old's face unlock his mom's iPhone X. This was one of the stories that I could not get to load. I don't know if Wired was having trouble with their website or what.
Well, it's pretty much what you see in the headline. Because children can inherit so much of their parents' faces, this kid was able to unlock both of his parents' iPhones. And at first, only 1 in 3 times worked, but apparently it reinforces the facial scan on every success. So he got the 3rd one, and then the 6th one, and then everyone. And there was also 2 brothers who were paternal twins and not even close to the same age, and they were both unlocking each other's phones easily.
Huh. Well, that's probably bad. So what you're telling me is if the phone, I mean, that seems like a bad algorithm.
Well, you've seen it only looks at your eyes and your mouth, and most of the face doesn't matter. And yeah, the kids they've inherited so much of the parent. But in this case, it was both parents, although they did look oddly familiar, the 2 people. So the kid was able to unlock both phones. If you've got a kid and you've got the iPhone X, maybe turn that off, because there's a good chance they'll get into it.
Speaking of clandestine tracking, this analysis of popular Android apps found that a huge number of them have similar kind of tracking to the web tracking that we were seeing on the web side of things. I really wish tools existed for making this kind of analysis as easy as it is with web. I mean, with Firefox Quantum or Chrome or Chromium or anything, when you load up a website, it's really easy to just fire up the inspector and look at what it's doing. You don't have any option to do that with Android applications. I think that's kind of a tragedy.
Dating apps were huge here. Apparently, advertisers are super interested in tracking somebody who has a dating app. But as simple as a flashlight app had these trackers in it, which is incredible. And these things, they track pretty much where you go, what you do with your phone, anything they can. And they are just everywhere.
Few people realize that the flashlight app generates the light by overclocking the processor on the phone from Bitcoin mining. And so the light is actually from the glow of the processor.
And turning on the microphone and the camera and recording everything at 4K.
PSA, Jeff Bezos' net worth just broke $100 billion. That's the guy that owns Amazon. So he's slowly evolving into Lex Luthor. Not sure why North Korea is related.
The North Korean rocket launch on that stuff. What's going on, Bloomberg? Is that their way of trying to tell us without telling us that Jeff Bezos is Lex Luthor?
He's funding North Korea. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's the Lex Luthor pick right here.
Look at that. That is the smug face of a 100 billionaire.
Are we to the nonsense stories yet? No,
this is quite the opposite of nonsense.
We've got one more story on YouTube's adpocalypse, but now, so companies are now up in arms about children and children's ads and related things, and the whole pedophiles thing. And they're like, oh my gosh, pedophiles are looking at this, and we don't want our ads running on that either.
Well, we should say, I didn't know this was a thing, and maybe it isn't. I don't know. Some stories make it sound like pedophiles themselves are posting videos of children. Just, if you have a kid, young kids will sometimes just shed their clothing. They're not looking to be wrapped up in clothing, or they're just in bed or whatever in some sort of nightgown or something like that. And apparently the pedophiles enjoy watching these videos. But in other stories, it makes it sound like these are just people who, they don't possibly think. It's oh, little Mary's doing something cute. Let's get a quick video of her. And they don't in a million years imagine that somebody would look at it in that manner. But people are making comments like that, and the advertisers don't like it.
Yeah. So apparently, if 4chan finds your video and makes a lot of comments, it's no longer advertiser friendly, I guess.
If it's categorized in the family and children section. Which that's everything about that story is just so depressing about the world,
So the really exciting thing about that is that if your audience is awful, your videos will be demonetized.
Well, at least we'll never have to worry about having children in our videos.
Google has wiped 786 pirate sites from Google search results. Hey, 786. That's what came after the 686, right? No, I don't know. So, yeah, Google is getting serious about purging the whole piracy-related search results.
That was in Russia, and if you remember, Russia created like this, I can't remember what they call it, but they've got this whole bureaucratic thing where they keep track of who's violating the Russian rules about VPNs and piracy and stuff like that. And they told Google, listen, you can either block these worldwide, I think they're all in Russia, or there will be no Google in Russia. And so Google's like, okay. And now they've done the first wave of completely blocking as if these sites don't exist as search results.
Now, I think also wasn't this also the packet of requests where Russia was requesting that their news sites be ranked higher for Russian citizens?
I don't know if that's a similar thing, but they have been talking about because of the whole, like the neo-McCarthyism thing going on. They're saying that if you punish RT and some of those other Russian news organizations, we will retaliate by, shutting you down in Russia.
I don't think anything has come of that yet, but it's going to be interesting to watch that unfold.
But the Trump administration especially, but not just the Trump administration, it's both sides of the aisle. They go to Russia. I mean, they blame Russia for everything. If the toilet is clogged in the White House, I bet the Russians get blamed for that.
It's the Russian tourist on...
Well, he's KGB. Yeah. Just pretending to be a tourist.
Oh, speaking of things that undermine Russia, it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a threat from the West, I guess. Is that what it would be? Is it a threat from the West or the East? I don't know.
I think that... now, in the past, they've said Bitcoin is okay. Sort of a roller coaster. I think Russia's kind of famous for this. It's sort of like, one day... we like it, and the next day it will destroy the Russian world. We have to get rid of it. But I think the bigger tell here, this was a finance minister, somebody who said something about this, Minister of Communications, I'm sorry. He said, Bitcoin is evil, but the blockchain is great, and we will probably do something related to the blockchain.
That sounds like Jamie Dimon.
Yeah. So I think they've probably planned some new thing, and this guy's behind it, and it's like his political baby. So he's trying to talk his book here.
Well, I think they've given their hand away because whatever that involves bears on motorcycles.
I don't know where that stock photo came from. Like Silicon Angle, I've never heard of them before, but I guess it's like we don't really have any stock photos of Russia, but we've got this bear.
Well, clearly, when you're talking about Bitcoin, the only picture that makes sense is a bear in a motorcycle that's waving.
Yeah, right.
31 million in tokens are stolen from a dollar-pegged cryptocurrency tether. So this was one of those ICOs. They were like, we're going to do this thing, and it's going to be amazing. And then they just disappeared. Was it like 374,000?
No, that's the next story.
Oh, okay.
This is a different one. This one has been around for a while, I think. This is Tether.
I think this one's the other one I couldn't get to load.
This is just one contract. So they had one of those... I think it's kind of like Ethereum, where they have, like the
contracts, yeah.
And somebody managed to get 30 million. Wow. Now, this is a thing where you convert this back to dollars through them, like through their exchanges and stuff. So what they've done is they know what wallet this is in, and it hasn't moved. So they've moved to shut down the ability for that wallet to ever exchange this for money again. And they're actually going to fork. And in that fork, find some way to rescue this wallet.
Wow, that's neat. Ethereum has done stuff like that in the past when they were smaller. It is interesting, and if enough of the participants in the blockchain agree to do that, then that's doable.
I don't even know if that's required here because I think this is more of a centralized thing. They do use some kind of blockchain, but I don't think there's anybody arguing that's like, yeah, they're just going to do that. Of course. Bad for them. Now this one that you're talking about, a much different situation.
Yeah, this one I thought was a lot funnier because this one was just like smooth talking. Yeah, exactly. Like this guy shows up and
it's called Confido, and it was a confidence scam. I mean, wow, the brass balls on these guys to call it Confido.
Oh, so yeah, but this was only 374,000. But this was Ethereum was used as the platform for this. So Ethereum, of course, is not going to fork or do anything Herculean to recover this. because of how popular Ethereum is. But yeah, they just
Well, I don't think Ethereum is. They shouldn't be on the hook here.
Yeah.
This was just people did something very stupid with their ether, and hey, cryptocurrency is all about freedom. You're free to make horrible mistakes like this. I think they had like a $10 million market cap, so
yeah.
it had $374,000 had appreciated to 10 million, except there was no value ever there at all.
And now the value is zero for them, for the investors, because Ponzi scheme. These criminals are going to ruin it for everybody. There's going to be terrible regulation, and then it's just Jamie Dimon's playground after that.
It was funny because they had a subreddit, and clearly they had gotten some guy to moderate it who was like one of the investors, and they shut down the Twitter, they shut down the LinkedIn, they shut down the website, they shut everything down. And this one guy on Reddit was the only place that people could lash out against, and he was like, "I don't even know. I don't know what's happening."
Oh, poor guy. Nobody should ever have to go through that.
Yeah, be careful who you back.
Yeah, turns out. Walmart is testing a self-driving floor scrubbing robot. This story was really exciting because I would love to okay, so I've been in Walmart, and I've been in Walmart really late at night, and encountering the floor scrubbing person or the robot.
I think some of those guys, English is not their first language, and they might not understand, oh God help, I'm under the scrubbers. So this little guy, the first couple of trips, he is driven. He's got a steering wheel. But during that time, he is memorizing the path that as a scrubber he should take. And he's got the LiDAR, like the self-driving cars. And after that, just cleans things on his own.
I'm envisioning a dystopian future where like you go through and like you're going through an aisle at Walmart and you've got the unruly children, because I think we can all relate to the unruly children at Walmart, and they're like pulling all the food off of the aisles and things like that. And then as soon as the child rounds the corner, all the robots come out and like restock the shelves and things like that. But if there's a person there, the robots stay hidden away.
Well, I'll take you one further than that, and I guarantee you're going to see this YouTube video where the cleaning robot comes out and cleans a spill, and there's a child, and he's like, "Oh my God, the robot!" And so he grabs the nearest spillable item and smashes it on the floor, and the robot cleans it, and that keeps going until the manager shows up.
I think I would be okay with robots having tasers.
Now, of course, we reported before about the shelf scanning robots, which are going to do the inventory and like find items that are misplaced and price checking. And now you've got the floor cleaning robots, and they go out of their way in these stories to be like, now this is not going to take anybody's job. It's just going to let them do other things. So, okay, they're not cleaning the floors. They're not managing the shelves. What are they doing?
Keeping up with the robots, making sure the robots don't get pissed off at the children and eat them.
Because I'm sure that Walmart, as a major corporation that is on razor thin margins, is all about keeping employees who aren't actually doing anything, right? That's definitely something they'll do.
Singapore is going to use driverless buses from 2022, which seems like a long way away, but it's probably just right around the corner.
Yeah, it is. It's not very far away. As you get older, it's funny because you still think in terms of like 2022, that's a lifetime away. And then you wake up and it's 2022. But yeah,
you're probably watching this in 2022.
They have a robust bus system, but this is for the more remote places. Now, Singapore is a tiny little place, and this is really just to get you to the other buses. And they're going to have the whole mobile app pickup thing and the whole 9 yards. But that's cool, I guess.
So we've trained a computer to think like a serial killer. So a sociopathic computer, that seems like redundant, but okay. And now it's got a creepy hobby. So we built an AI to basically decode this. You remember this? This is like the serial killer,
Zodiac Killer.
Zodiac signs, whatever. And it, a lot of people have decided that some of those are just the ramblings of a madman. There are mistakes in it, only human, but some of them have never been decoded. And is that down to mistakes? Is that down to whatever? We don't know.
I don't think they've decoded any of them. And of course, he was never caught. And they're not even sure how many people he killed. So they've built, it's called Caramel. I don't know how you call it that. But this computer is supposed to simulate his thinking in order to break his code. And for whatever reason, it writes poetry. Did you understand why it writes poetry?
No. I have no idea why it's writing poetry.
But good Lord, just leave that on the screen there for a minute. Let him read the. Write some terrifying poetry. You give it a topic, and so this is like they gave it the topic kitten or kitty. It's like, oh, it can't do anything wrong with kitty, and it certainly did.
How long until like who's a classic movie director for scary science or like scary movies?
Hitchcock.
Or, like, okay, how long until we have like the Hitchcockian AI, or who just makes?
Well, there was that. I think this was when you were out one week, but they took an AI and they fed it the creepy subreddit contents, and it writes the first 2 paragraphs of horror stories, and just like thousands at a time.
Wow!
And tweets them out.
Interesting. That would be worth a look. You know what's not worth a look, or maybe is worth a look? I don't know, depending on how you which way you swing. Pornhub is opening its first ever retail store in New York City. Now that is a website, in case you're not familiar.
If you can't guess what that website has on it, it's pornography.
So, there's a picture of it. Where's the picture? Where's the picture?
What are you looking for?
There's a picture. There was a picture of the store.
Yeah, it's in the middle there.
Is it? Where's it at?
Oh yeah, it's gone. Oh, I think it's the header. Yeah. There it is.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Well, it looks pretty swanky.
Yeah, of course this is in New York. I think it's in like the Soho district. It's really upscale. So they're going to sell sex toys, obviously, but not just any sex toy. It's like a special brand that they have.
I didn't dig into it further than that.
But also, now the big reason you want to go on whatever day this opens up, some of the porn stars are going to be there. And you can, I guess shake hands.
That won't be awkward at
all. But also, they have a line of apparel. You can get a Pornhub T-shirt.
I think, it's just T-shirts. I mean, I don't think that's just.
I mean, are you that much? Are you? I guess if you are like a serious hardcore Pornhub fan, you want the people at the grocery store to know it.
I did. There was an advertising event. And they had come up with some amazingly clever advertising, and it caused a little bit of minor controversy in the advertising world because their advertising was so good and so clever. Some of the people in advertising wanted to give them an award for it, but because it's pornography, it's like, we've never had this problem before. What do we do?
Oh yeah, Pornhub is brilliant when it comes to like they'll just randomly support some popular cause, and it's like, well, you're offering us tens of thousands of dollars, but you're Pornhub. I'd say always take it. I mean, I think they tried to give some money to one of the like cancer research places or whatever, and they turned it down, which is insane.
Yeah.
Why?
It's like, we'll happily take your money to research cancer.
I mean
Hackers have filled official ISIS channels with pornographic pictures because that creates problems there as well. Maybe Pornhub could sponsor those hackers. Fighting the war on ISIS one IRC channel at a time.
It sounds ridiculous, but they reported, of course, who knows? This is the Independent, and they're obviously going to take the anti-ISIS stance. But they claim that this really did cause a lot of infighting because they were like, you did this, you posted this, and they're like, no, you did it. And it's a very macho kind of thing going on in ISIS. These are the same people who posted gay porn on their Twitter a while back. So
interesting.
It's a fun hobby, I guess.
In other news that I was sort of split on if we should even bother reporting this, but the people that believe the Earth is flat, legitimately, not facetiously,
one guy in particular,
is going to launch a rocket to prove that the Earth is flat, but unfortunately he has delayed that launch.
Now here's the weird thing about this rocket. It was only going to go, I can't remember how high, but not high enough to observe the curvature of the Earth. And so people were kind of like, why are you bothering to do this? Weird answer. So he wanted to do this. He built it himself. 20 grand, built a rocket.
That's totally not going to blow up.
And unfortunately, the mobile home that he was using as a launch ramp broke down. And because he got huge worldwide attention last week, some major paper ran this, and people sort of fell in love with it. The Bureau of Land Management came in and they were like, I'm sorry, you can't do this.
Well, he's going to get permits and it's going to be okay.
Now he's going to do it next week, he says. He works as a limo driver. How would you like to have this guy driving your limo? But he says he's going to do it next weekend if possible. But then after that's a success, he's going to do a balloon / rocket. So he's going to take the rocket up on the balloon and launch from an airborne position in order to get high enough to observe the lack of curvature in the Earth.
Seems like an elaborate, like, suicide.
And one great thing about this, so like atmosphere, right? We've got the, but they don't believe it's a sphere. So it's the atmosphere.
Really?
But I mean, if the Earth is flat, it'd still be like a dome-shaped.
One would think. I mean,
I'm not hip to the flat Earth stuff. Maybe I'm talking out my ass here.
I don't know.
Is it a cylinder? You think it's a cylinder? Well, yeah, because the guys on the edge wouldn't be able to observe a difference, right? It would have to be a cylinder.
One would think. Or is it because the ocean's on the edge and you sail off the end of the ocean? Is that how that works? Or is it just ice?
Wow.
Like you keep sailing until you hit ice? Or I don't know. Call of DooDee. Not what you think. It is a dog pooping service called Call of DooDee.
Also, what a ridiculous, like, did you really need to hire somebody? It's $80 a month. Plus, I think they only come once a month. So you're okay with piles of dog shit for 3/4 of a month. And then you get 1 week of relief, and that's $80. I don't understand the service.
Seems like the scooping and removal service would be real hard on your yard too, though. I guess if you can afford this, you've probably got an estate. Like, why would you do this? I mean, if you're gonna have a dog, you got to take care of the dog, right?
Well, I'll tell you, it's not. The story there, of course, is that Activision is trying to block that as a trademark dispute because they think that somehow you're going to confuse the dog poop collecting service with the popular military first-person shooter genre.
I don't know. My favorite story that we've had in a long time.
This is the best.
So, like last year, I think last year we reported on Gatebox, which is this, you can get an anime waifu robot hologram assistant thing.
It was the, and a lot of people were upset. Now, they offer Hatsune Miku, but they also have their in-house girl.
Oh, yeah.
And you said the one on the picture was Hatsune Miku, and it wasn't. And wow, where there's some pissed off weebs.
That is clearly worth 30 seconds of explanation every time it comes up. Clearly. So apparently marriages to those anime wives are recognized by that company now as well.
Now, you might wonder, what the hell does it matter? Why would you want to register your marriage to your waifu?
Here's what I'm feeling.
But it turns out there's good reason to do this. First of all, your waifu can get a monthly stipend of $60. How incredible is that? And because most waifus are public, you know what, they're like a character or something from an anime or whatever, but they have a whole bio. So on her birthday, you get off work.
In Japan, this can't be real.
Now, you did mention this is the company that creates this product. So they have a reason to, it's like, hey, this is great advertising. I mean, what a brilliant advertising move. You give probably like, what do you think, 30, 40 people that work there?
Yeah.
And this is, so you give all those people, or the males at least, a day off and $60 a month, and you get all this great advertising.
Anybody in Japan want to hook Level 1 up with an interview of a female employee of that company? Because I bet that would just, if they speak English, I just bet that would be a gold mine.
Yeah, I don't think the market would support a male version of this. Unless it were like a gay thing.
Husbando, I believe is what that would be called.
Right, because, see, now I don't think, like, pornography is not super appealing to women, but it is super appealing to gay men because they're still men, so I think that's the only way something like that would get off the ground.
I don't know. Well, this is the swill tier of stories, so that's how you know that you're at the end of the the Level 1 news broadcast. But
how incredible that, because I don't know, I mean, for $60 a month and 1 day off a year, would you go ahead and register your...
It's basically the company is giving them $60 a month to participate in their PR campaign.
But would you actually admit?
No.
No,
No,
not for
not for $60 a month.
not for what's your what's your threshold? If I bump it up to 200,
Yeah, that's getting more into the appropriate territory. I mean, $200 a month is a lot of Steam games.
200 a month.
I don't have any responsibilities, right?
200 a month and one lifetime 6 weeks for maternity.
I'm just going to be taking the money. She's going to be like off in the closet. She's not even going to experience the passage of time.
You know, with that attitude, I'm not even going to give it to you.
It's going to be like that episode of Star Trek where they forgot about Moriarty and the holodeck. It's going to be like that for me.
But the other thing about it is she's shared by, there's like 20 guys taking off that day whenever Hatsune Miku's time comes up. So
I wonder if it's like clone or if there's like a shared personality. There's like a cloud personality for all that. That would be, it's like, that would actually, like if there was a cloud personality, that would be one way for dealing with psychological issues among those, because it's like, so-and-so husbando is abusive to me. And then it's like, as, also being a husband, you could have a word with them and maybe correct their behavior.
That's going to lead to murder. You can't. Now, the other thing that they talk about here, as far as like, what are they getting out of this? Not just advertising, but they're thinking that based on the response they get here, whoever the top waifu is might be the next one to go into the box.
Well, one of the things that made Hatsune Miku popular, I think, or no, it's not Hatsune Miku. Maybe it is.
She is one of the options.
It's like the pop star, the Japanese pop star, because anybody could just make her sing anything. Like you just buy the software and you could do that, and that's one of the things that drove the popularity. So I think that crowdsourcing the creation of these new, avatars or whatever. Could be lucrative. I mean, they could be a lucrative business move. So I don't know. Check out the Level 1 store. Check out our KVM. You guys have any idea how hard it is to find a KVM that does 4K, 60 hertz, and FreeSync? It may seem like they cost a lot, but they're actually the least expensive KVMs that you can get that do all that and have all these features. I don't know.
But can I plug my waifu into it? Oh, there's the boiler snake.
The boiler snake
is like getting played off the stage in an award ceremony. So I guess we're done.
There's a hook that's going to come off from off screen, and
so we'll see you next week.
See ya.